walk all around. This is the sarcophagus. Seen those? That's unique. Okay, Sarah, this is the Rockefeller Museum. It's the first museum of archaeology in Israel. This is where they put the Dead Sea Scrolls, and so much of the work was done when those were discovered. Today it's the Israel Antiquities Authority housed here. It is also governed now by the Israel Museum. It was, of course, in Jordan because the museum is from the 1930s, officially opened in 1938. This was Jordan, but the Jordan government supported it, and now the Israeli government supports it. It is not a museum visited often, but it does have some ancient artifacts from Jerusalem and Jericho and Lachish, Beth Shan, and so forth. Hey, look, it just feels you can't see any of the city. Isn't that amazing? So this is Beth Shan, 1920s, and just as the fellow who grew up in that neighborhood right up above the Tell told me when I was young, we had no idea any of this was here. It was just all covered with dirt. And you can see from this photograph that that's exactly the case. All this is where we have the streets with the columns and the bathhouse and so forth. But in this picture, you can see nothing had been found yet, hadn't been dug yet. Another item from Beth Shan. So the Egyptians were clearly here at that time. This is a statue of Ramses III. Now that's not Ramses the Great, but found at Beth Shan also. You can tell it's a pharaoh, can't you? It looks very Egyptian. Hey, they wore sandals back then, didn't they? You can tell. Yeah. A skeleton of a man, approximately, they say, 100,000 years old. I don't believe it.
Okay.
I don't think the world's that old. I think the world's about 6,500, maybe 7,000 years old.
Really?
That's it.
Wow.
You see, but how about all the carbon-14? How about, that's a good study. I think everyone needs to do that study.
What do you mean do that study?
Like read about it?
Well, learn about carbon-14 dating, learn about other kind of dating methods. How do you measure something? You have a standard. Well, before, you have to have things that you have to know how old they are. Think about it for a minute. All over the world, what do we find? Nothing from ancient history. And then at about 4,000 to 5,000 BC, an explosion. Pyramids, buildings in Babylon area, all over the world where we have ancient discoveries, they're all about the same age. Nothing before that. You think, well, man wasn't very intelligent before that. No, they could have built. I guess you'd almost have to say, well, they were monkeys and so they couldn't build, and then they became, no. I believe that the world is young. Didn't used to believe that. I used to believe the world was old. But because how long is a day? It's a question. But then I began studying like a yucca plant. A yucca plant cannot survive without a panuba moth, a certain kind of moth.
Wow.
That moth cannot survive without the yucca plant.
Oh, interesting.
They have to have each other to survive. So from an evolutionary standpoint, it's an impossibility, and there are thousands of examples just like that. That this one had to be there in place, fully developed. This one had to be here and fully developed, and had to be within hours of each other. And yet God said, created this on this day and this on this day. And so for someone to say, well, a day must be 1,000,000 years or 1,000,000,000 years, well, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. Yeah.
That maybe survived, but they would let it die. Or else I'm assuming they have to be.
I've never seen that before ever.
I mean, those look like earrings.
Yeah. This is alabaster. I think that. Well, that's alabaster. Stone, you can see through it. Yeah, it's really pretty stuff. Alabaster shop. Jewelry.
Just over here. Looks like a trunk. A tree trunk. That's cute.
Oh, this is what I remember Cat Sean. Something like this thing there. That's what comes from Cat Sean. There's a couple of organizations that really want all that stuff representing the Creation Research International. You really want to know age of birth, they're all PhD scientists who know their stuff. And they help me immensely in changing my views. That looks like a little veil for the bowl and symbolizes heaven. But see, I can't know. Here's Lakeisha.
Well, the 1600 makes sense.
Yeah. But I like to know my way.
What is this thing?
A scythe. I believe that's what it's called.
Little human there.
Okay.
A sheep.
One of the mistakes I've made many times. We stopped the movie. I think was that just staring at me or you want a group?
No, it was just
Oh, so these were part of the loss.
evidence that the 10th Legion was here. Of course, the 10th Legion are the folks who attacked Jerusalem. Titus was the general, and this fellow died here. This is about 200, so they stayed in Jerusalem for a long time. The 10th Legion.
Lucius Magnus.
Okay, all of these.